Hey guys, how's it going? This is Rory from ratemyfuneral.com. That was rate, by the way. How are you doing? This is a tutorial. We're going to do something for Christmas. Christmas tutorial, Christmas tutorial, Christmas tutorial. Yes, a Christmas tutorial. Basically a self-wrapping present, to be exact. We can see this here. There you go. I always give away balls at Christmas. The bit we're going to be concentrating on is this whole unwrapping of the box. I've got just a couple of extra camera angles going on in there just to make it look a bit cooler, and then it wraps up. There's a couple of ways you could achieve this. You can do it using keyframes, so you can actually animate each of the walls kind of folding in. Problem with that is it's you can't use the effectors, so that's something we're going to look at today, is the effectors, because these give it that kind of springy. You can see it kind of bounces down and up. You see how that boing closes like that. That's where the effectors are quite nice. Again, you can keyframe it all in, but the effectors give you just a little bit more control. If I'm completely honest, in this situation, keyframing is actually a lot quicker than setting up to use the effectors. But it's great practice, and for them, when you do something that you could do with setting it all up for, this is great. So, what have we got? We've got a pen knife, we've got a can of V energy drink, and I have a cat on my lap. So I'm pretty much ready to dive on in and get this underway. Right, where are we going to start? Well, like almost everything in life, it starts with a cube. Let's see. First thing we're going to do, we're going to leave it exactly where it is, and we're going to leave it at 200, because this is going to make life so much easier while we're doing all of this section. In case you missed that, by the way, I will just do that again. If you want to insert a cube into the scene, go to here, and then go to here, and then there it is. But you've found cube by now. That's like the most easiest thing to do. Okay, anyway. Right. Let's see. The first thing we want to do with this cube is actually make it so that we can edit the sides. Now there's a nice little tick box down here called separate surfaces. Now if you click that, well, nothing's happened. Well, what use is that to anyone? Well, I'll see. I'll tell you. Basically, because the cube is parametric, the separate surfaces doesn't actually mean anything yet. You have to make the cube editable in order to see the separate surfaces. So I'm going to do that by hitting C. And now you can see that the cube has a little plus next to it. And there, if you expand that, you can see all of the different faces of the cube. And if you see, I'm highlighting these as I go. You can see each one. So these are going to be the dudes we're playing with. I'm going to go to Garand shading with lines, and that puts lines around at the edges and just makes it a little bit easier to see. Okay, so the bottom one, I'm actually going to label bottom, because we're going to want to know that. And the top one, which is number 5, I'm going to label top. There's a few specific reasons for this, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Right, so let's first of all, we'll grab all of these faces, and we're going to take them out of the cube hierarchy and build that null object, because we don't need that at the moment. The next thing we want to do is prep these for the animation. Now, because we're going to be kind of folding, if I just show you this, basically, it's very important to note that we're in the model tool here. So if I grab this axis, you can see I'm moving that around. I'm actually moving it from that point, which is not in here, so it's a little bit offset. So if I go to rotate, that was R to bring up rotate, and just rotate that, you see how it's rotating from that central point there? Because that's the original central point of the cube. Now, that's not going to help us with what we want to do. That was Control Z, just to put that back again, by the way. Because we want them to sort of pivot off, off like so. So this is why we need to adjust this. So this button here. Basically, this is the axis tool, and with this we can move the axis of the object. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. Click that. You can click your middle mouse button and go into the 4 viewport, or click that little dude up the top there. Here press H, here press H, and here press H, and then that will just put the cube to full screen in each of the windows, makes it a bit easier to see. I'm going to go back to normal, the normal grab live selection tool, that's the word, and I'm going to start by selecting the axis tool and I'm going to move this axis. Now see, if I move this around, it's not affecting the cube. So we're going to move this to the bottom and to each of the edges. So firstly, in the top view, I'm going to pull it to, this is face 1, and you can see these lines here, so that's where face 1 sits. So I'm just going to move that back there. Now if you hold shift, it moves in increments of 10, and this is why we kept it at 200, because now we can just move back 100, and now we're dead on that plane. And again, from the front view, we do the same thing, and there we go, we're now on the bottom. So we're just going to do the same thing for the others, so just move it across and then move it down, holding shift. It's well worth mentioning, move it first, then hold shift, then release the mouse, then release shift. If you hold shift and press the and then try and move it, all you're doing is making it so you can only move in that specific plane. You can't move up or down. No, that's not even right. I don't know why I'm saying that. No, it just doesn't do anything, so you have to release it and press it again. So that's what I mean. For doing the specific planes, it's these buttons, but forget that. Right, I'm being distracted by myself. So let's go down here. We'll just do the same thing. Here, look, I've messed that one up. This is because I genuinely have a cat sat on my lap, and it's causing my back to ache because I'm having a little hunch over. Anyway. Enough of my troubles. Right, the top one is interesting because the top one we want to fold off another one. So we'll move this up to the top so it's sitting on the top plane. And the one we're going to put it with is the face 1. So that's this guy here. So if we go back to the top and we're going to move that to there. Finally, the bottom. The bottom we don't really need to do much with, so I'm just going to put that on it and leave it in the center. Job's done. Now at this point, remember to untick axis tool, because otherwise you'll go to move your cube and you won't be able to do it. Okay, so face 1. Let me just show you what's going to happen here. If I go to, go to the rotate tool, we can now rotate these individually and from the correct pivot point. So that's great. But this is the one we want the top to come with. So we're going to, if we put that top in there and then we move the bottom one, you can see that we can then move that. And then we can select the top one, and then we can move that. See, so we've got some control over this. And again, like I say, from this point, you can really quite easily keyframe these into the positions, you know, and not really worry too much about it. But like I say, it's a good exercise to have a play with the effectors. They're really, really useful. So basically, we're going to have a play with the effectors and the fracture object. So let's see, where do we start? So the bottom we don't need to worry about, we can just leave that there. Face 4, face 3, face 2 and face 1, right? Okay. So let's go back to full screen view. We'll come back to face 1 because that's going to be the most problematic. Now face 4, we need to put it inside of a fracture object. Now what a fracture object does is, how do I explain this? So if you think, if you put an item into a cloner, then you can use the effectors onto it. Now the fracture object does that. It treats the item as if it was a clone, so therefore when you can use effectors on it. So what you do is go to the mode graph here and select fracture, bang, like that, and then you can place your object into it. Now here's a point, quite an important point. If you want to use an effector to, there goes the cat. If you want to use an effector to rotate or move, rotate something from a specific point, when you actually use the effector to do it, it won't do it from the point that you've selected there. It's a strange thing. I'm not sure exactly why it does it, but basically you need to put it into a null inside of the fracture object. So really what we need to do here is put this face 4 inside of another null called face 4. So I'm just going to take a copy of that name because it's good to name these. If you press Alt G, it places that item into a null for you. That's exactly what we need. And now because we did it Alt G on the actual one, it's kept the access information there, so that's spot on. So we'll name this one face 4 and we'll name this one face 4. Okay, so we've now got to do the same thing with the others. So I'm going to create a fracture object, put face 3 into it. I'm going to make a copy of the text, Alt G, name that null, name that fracture object. Okay, So this is going to get a little complicated and quite tricky to keep on top of here, but it's fine. This is all the fun, isn't it? So the Effector object face 2. Okay, so same thing again. Copy the text, Alt G to put it in a null, and then put that text on those two things there. Finally, face 1. Now, see, this is where we've got to be a little bit clever, you see. Now, we're going to put face 1 into a fracture object. See how that jumps like that? That's because this is a child of this. And this is where it gets a little confusing. So we need to do the same procedure as before. Put that into a null. Face 1, face 1. Okay, now you'll see we now also need to do it here as well. So we grab a fracture object. We place that under the face 1 original polygon. Then put the top into that one, and then do the same routine there. Alt G, top, top, and I'm going to just put a little note and top there. There we go. So we know that's face 1 and top. So that's your hierarchy. That's how that should look. If you are following this, maybe worth rewinding and double checking that, because like I say, that's the bit that can get a little confusing. But there, that's all that set up now, so we can close these up for the minute. Okay, effectors. So the first effector we're going to use is simply what's called a plane effector. And if we go MoGraph effectors, and there's plane here. Now this one is literally, it's just a way of controlling the position, the scale, rotation, and a few other bits and pieces, just with the position of where the effector is sitting. Now by default, the effector is it's what's called infinite, so it affects everything no matter where it is. Also, the thing that I forgot to do here was you have to select. You can assign an effector afterwards. So let's say we want to assign this plane effector to this face and top. You can just drag it in there like that. That's now affecting that. But that's not how I want to do it, because I want to show you kind of the much easier way. So just highlight, make sure it's highlighted, the fracture object, then go to effector and then plane. Now it's already done it for you. You haven't got to do it. See? So that's nice and easy. And the reason that this has jumped up is because by default there's a 100 centimeter on the y-axis in the effector. So I'm just going to switch that off for the minute, so that goes back to where it should be. And I'm going to take that label and I'm going to put that on that effector, because we're going to have one effector for each of these just to give us maximum control. So we're going to select face 2, go MoGraph effector plane, take that text and put that one on there. Again, we'll switch off the position. Bang. Number 3, MoGraph effector plane. Grab that. Okay, and again, turn off the position. Number 4, that's the one. Effector plane. Copy that and put that on there. And switch off the position. Okay, so I just want to show you what I was talking about earlier. This is kind of a strange thing that I found. So we're going to play with number 4. One thing we do need to do is change all of these fall-off modes from infinite. We're going to use box, but it's easier if we just highlight all 4. If you press the top one, hold shift, and then click the bottom one, you can highlight all 4 and just change them to box. That's brilliant. Now, the reason these aren't showing up for me, they should show up for you, because by default this should be on, but under filter you've got this deformer. So we'll just switch that back on so I can see them. Now the reason they're now not showing up is because they're hidden. So if I just hide these, see there, that's where they are. They're just in this box. So I'm going to make them a bit bigger in just a moment. In fact, I'll do it now. So I'm just going to up these. Now if you think that the box that we're playing with is 200, so I'm going to make them 400, like so, so that it's nicely encompassing it. Actually, I'm going to make it 300. That seems a bit excessive. So just so we can keep on top of what's going on. Okay. So there you go. There are all of our things. Now this is going to get really, really messy because of all of these, but it's fine. We can live with that. Let's see. What do we want to do? I was going to show you this. This is it. So I'm just going to turn them off for all of them. Get the right button. All of them except for number 4. And I'm also going to just hide everything else except for number 4. So we can just see. There we go. We can see the bottom and we can see number 4. Right. If we go to the effector for number 4 and go to where is it gone? There we go. Parameter. You can turn on rotation, and then you'll see here we can actually rotate this. So this is the one we want. Now, if you see, this is what an effector is doing. So basically, whatever I set this to in here is when this red square is over it, that's where it will be. And it kind of tweens to that point. So if we just put in -90 here, and I grab that effector with the live selection tool and drag it away, you see how that... So that's basically what it's doing. When it's in this area, it's affecting it. So that's cool. That's brilliant. It gives us loads of control. However, but check this out. If we didn't place the face 4 into that null, if I just take that out and just take that null out again, and we move this over it again, you see how it goes from the middle of the axis. And if you highlight face 4, you can see that the axis is at the bottom. If you check on the fracture object, it does not matter where you put this one. I can move this one down to here, and the same thing. If we hover that over, it still goes from the middle. So that's why I'm just going to press undo to put that all back. There we go. So that's why you put it inside of this the null, and it actually uses the information. So that's very, very, very handy. So it is. So, right. But yeah, basically that's what we're doing. So I'm just going to turn these back on again now so we can see what we're playing with. And I'm going to just going to zero that out and put that back. Excuse me while I get a drink. I think this might have to be a 2-parter. Right. Okay. Now we have set up our initial rig, we need to configure where these parts are going to be from the start. And we're just going to basically animate the effectors moving around. So I'm going to start at frame 5, and I'm going to have all the effectors where they are right now. So I'm just going to highlight them all, and I'm going to put a keyframe in like so on frame 5. Now, to be fair, this is much easier if you go to animation mode. So if you go to Window, Customization, Layouts, and then Animation. That was me, I just saw me. And you can see kind of what's going on a bit here. If we just go to the top view, these are all 4 of our effectors. They're all sitting on top of one another, and they've all got a nice keyframe set there. So I'm just going to scrub forward. Let's go 30 frames. And I'm going to move them all away. So face 4, you want to check that you want to go the correct way really, because it just keeps it a bit tidier. So face 4, which one is face 4? Let's turn off axis adjust mode. Face 4, I can't, it's not highlighting it for me now. There we go. Face 4 is the one that's being affected already, so we just need to set that back to 0 for the moment. Okay, so face 4 is this side. So face 4, we will move. It's just the red bit in here that's the important, so we'll just move that over to the side. Face 3 is this side here. So face 3, we move up to here. Face 2, in theory, I'm guessing, is that side. Yep. So face 2 we can move over, and finally face 1, we know that this comes. Oh, I've moved the actual object. I only wanted to move the thing. Now see that I've made a mistake there because I wasn't setting the keyframes for each one. I was going to do them all at the same time. I've lost them all because I did undo. So I'm going to have to quickly do these again. So face 4 we move over to there. Face 3 goes up to here. Face 2 over to here. And face 1 we move down to the bottom there. Face 1, we might have to change a little bit because of the fact that we've got 2 in there, so we might have to maybe extend the length. Now that we've moved all of these, just, with them all selected, like so, just hit the keyframe button, and there you go, that's saved that. So if we scrub through the timeline, you'll actually see them just moving away. But obviously nothing's happening yet, because we haven't told it to do anything yet. So that's fine. Okay, so let's see. The next bit. Let's go to back into standard. So layouts, standard. There we go. And we want to use this one so that we can see what we're doing a little bit here. So face 4. Let's just tidy up a bit here. I'm going to hide everything else except for 4. We'll do these one at a time. It'll make it a bit easier to see. So face 4, in the effector, we go to the parameter, we make sure rotation is enabled, and then basically we're going to move that 90 degrees that way. And then that's the animation done for us, see? Because as it moves away, it opens up the box. Now, what we'll do though is this opening, just like in the video I did, we'll open it right out and then we'll have it close back up again. So we actually want it more than 90. So let's move to the finished position. In theory it's double, so if we just put in 180, right, so the problem there, what is the problem there? What have I just done? So we're moving out. Okay, so let's get that back to where it was in the start. So we want that at 90. My mistake. I was supposed to, the opening position for them all should have been opened out and flat. But that's not a problem. We can do that now. Let me just set that to 0. So we'll do them one at a time again. If we just turn them on, this is what we've got. So we'll start. In case you're, I can't remember if I did mention this. These are for hiding items in and out of the viewport. So basically, if it's green, it will show. If it's red, it won't show. The top one is only in the viewport. The bottom one is in the renderer as well. So if you want to turn them both on at the same time, hold Alt and then just tick them, and that does that. Right, okay, so that's right, that's our number 4. So let's put face 4. We're going to put that down. We're not going to move the fracture object because the axis is in the middle here, so we're going to actually move the null that we created. So we'll just use this dude here. So using the rotate tool, click it and drag it, and then just hold shift to put it to -90. There we go. Turn that one off, turn the next one on, same thing. Grab the null itself, and look, this one's different. Did I do that one differently? I don't remember. Okay, it's not a problem. If you do get this on that null, select axis mode, select the pointer. It's on the correct plane in that direction, but it needs to be down. So we just move it down. I've moved it 90. It needs to come down one more. There we go. That's cool. Here's a handy hint. You'll see why I had this earlier. If you go to filter and then untick deformer, that just gets rid of all of those boxes so you can see what you're doing a little easier. Right, so face 3. We're going to rotate. So R for the rotation tool. Move that way. What have I done? I've left the axis mode on. That's why that happens. Right, roll that back like that. No, that's 80 degrees. 10 degrees. There we go. Right. Okay, so that's number 3 done. So face 2, we'll do it on the null, and we'll roll that back like so. And this is the face 1 on top, so we'll grab the face 1 null. Let's make it so we can see it. Oh, turn it on. Okay, so we're gonna move that one out. We're then also gonna grab the null for the top, and we're gonna roll that one out. There we go. So now when I turn all of these back on, we have our shape. Okay. So now that we've done that, we're going to play around with our effectors again. So we can, it's optional whether you have them on or off. I'm going to switch them on. It's going to get pretty complicated in here, but I can at least see what's going on. Alright, so let's start again. We're going to hide them all except for number 4. And we're going to start with number 4. So in the opening position, we want, this is where we want this to sit. I'm going to fold that right in. So yep, so that's 180. Okay. So in case you missed it, it was in the effector, the plane effector, then parameter, then rotation, and then that rotation there. See, so now when this moves away, that opens that right out flat. Also, by the way, there are some scripts to do this sorts of thing about, but again, you don't learn how to, if you use a script, it's all very well, but you don't learn how to actually do it. So this is why I'm doing it like this, because it's nice to learn how to actually do it and not just completely rely on the script. Once you've done it and you understand it, then it makes sense to use the script, because then it's a case of, you know, you want to speed everything up, you want to make things quicker, then just do it and bang, 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 knock them out. But it's good to always do it first, you know, at least a couple of times, just to get it into your head how it's working and what it's doing. Because you never know, it might be something that fixes another problem for you. Right, okay, so number 3. Number 3, we want to fold that in, so we're going to go to the effector, rotation, and we just have to check. So in this case, it's not the B rotation, it's going to be the pitch rotation. So we're going to move that. Again, that's going to be 180. There we go, so that's in. Number 2, turn on the rotation. We need to make it so we can see it. And this one is that one, and this one's going to be minus 180. Oh, this is quite nice working in round numbers. Makes it easy to keep on top of. Okay, and then the top one. Like I say, this is the one we might need to tweak a little bit, because I'm not sure quite how this is going to react yet, so we have to try it. So that's not the right one, it's this one here. Okay, so what we might actually need to do is make an effect. Yes, we do need to make an effector specifically for the top one. That was what it was. Right, so minus 90 puts the puts that one in its place. So we're going to add one more plane effector with the top highlighted. So MoGraph effector, plane effector. And we'll just name that top. Okay, and as you can see, it's already being affected, so we turn that off and we set the fall off to box, and we make it a bit bigger, 300, 300, 300. And then in that one, we're going to set our rotation, not that one, to minus 90. Okay. Obviously there's no animation for the top one, so we'll add that in now. If we go customization, layouts, and then go animation, we need to go to the 5th frame and set a keyframe for the top one, and then go to frame 35, and I'm going to move this one upwards and set the keyframe. So now when that all comes back together, there you go. Oh, I've done it a bit wrong. What have I done there then? So we've got a couple of issues, but this is not the end of the world. We can live with this. Right, so the opening scene is still not quite right, because the top and the bottom seem to have gone back to where they were. So face 1, we need to make sure is definitely there. Okay, so now that's going the wrong way. That's cool. Face 1 effector, so we'll make that 90 rather than minus 90. Okay, what's that doing? There's too many red boxes. I can't work out what's actually happening here. Right, so that one's right, that one's right. So they're all okay, it's just the top one. So I'm just going to turn off everything except for the top one. so we can see what's happening here. Okay, so the initial position of the top one is in the wrong place, so we need to grab that. Alright, our axis is miles away, so what we need to do is get that axis point. Let's go into this mode. That's not really going to help us. We just need to see, really. So we can move this. Remember to hold that 200 degrees, 200, and then up like so. Okay, turn that off. Go back to rotate mode. Okay, yep, we've got something very odd happening. I'm just going to backtrack a little bit, try and work out exactly what's happened here, because these are the sorts of things that you come across. So this is good. Okay, so that one also, this one's doesn't seem to be quite moving far enough away. So this is it number 3? No, number 2 isn't moving quite far enough away. So we just do that and put a keyframe on that one. So our top and our face 1 is still not working quite right. So face 1, that needs to be sat flat. And our top doesn't appear to be following it. Why is this? Why is this? Turn off face 2 so we can see here. So let's just confirm this fracture object. I'm guessing it's something to do with the hierarchy, and it definitely didn't do this in my test. So face, yep, so that's correct, and that's correct. So let's just make this a bit easier for the minute. We'll take the top one out for the moment and just switch that off. Face 1 is only going to there. So face 1, we need that to go to minus 180 for a start. No. No, this is the problem I got before, wasn't it? So face 1 is in the wrong place. So we put that there. There, right. So face 1 is now opening correctly. Okay. Now we need to get the top working with that. So we'll put the top back in as a child of face 1 so that it follows what face 1's doing. Oh, we need to switch it on. There we go. Okay. Alright, so it's moved quite drastically. So the easiest way to do this is to, if we go back into customization, layouts, and then standard. Right, I'm going to zero this out to number 1 and then just move it up a bit. So 0, 0, and then that one. Okay, so zeroing that out didn't actually zero it out either. I'm guessing this is something to do with our effector here. So I'm just going to put that to 0 so it's not affecting it. There we go. Right, okay. I'm not sure why that's so far away like that. Here we go. Right, okay, we've got that back into where it should be. So that's now zeroed out. So the top is now currently in the same position as number 1. So we're going to move that across 100. There we go. All right, and just check that that's in the right place, and that is okay. So now, what's happening here? Right, okay, we've got something a bit more is happening. That's cool. I apologize for this going a bit wrong, but I won't take it out because it's could be useful. I'm hoping you have actually followed it. And you're not completely lost, because I actually am feeling a little lost. But anyway, so we need to get the top one being affected now. So we want to put it, not that one, something like Is it 180 then? Is the top switched on or off? No, so it... Let's just make it so we can only see those two. Ah, my animation's gone for the top. Okay, so we're going to put the animation back in. Maybe I undid too far. So hit a keyframe, go to frame, what was it, 35? Right, there we go. And move that up. Bang. Okay, so what's actually happening there now is you can see it's being affected, but because it's being affected too early. So, okay, the way we're going to do this, we don't want this one to move, so we're just going to grab this keyframe and just drag this across. We'll have that go a bit quicker. Okay, so that's one. That's quite an interesting way, but it's a bit jumpy. So perhaps if we make the top one, go to the effector, go to fall off. That was it. Sorry, and then just make it a touch wider. And this one might actually be better. That the effector isn't actually being animated, and it might be better that it's just basically as it leaves where the effector is. See, the only thing I've got that I don't like there is the fact that it's opening downwards. So I'm going to fix that by doing it minus 180, and then hopefully that will... There we go. So that properly unfolds now. But I think, is there a point in there where it's kind of... No, that doesn't seem too bad. But that's doing what it should do. So now if we switch all of these back on, and that one, you can now see that this basically unfolds itself. Now it does it all at the same time, so it ends up all intersecting. So we don't want that. So we're going to go to Content Browser. Content, customization, menu, customization, layouts, animation. Cool. Okay, so, and then we're just going to offset them a bit. So this is quite easy. We just grab, let's say, we'll start with phase 4 going first. So we'll just, you just highlight the ones you want. So this is phase 3. So we're just going to move that over a bit, like so. Let's say to 15, and then we'll grab the ones below that and move them to say 25, and these ones move to 35. Now and our 5 can go right at the end there, but I'm not even, like I say, I'm not even sure that we need the 5 one to move. No, it does do that last bit at the end there. Oh hello, we've got another weird issue now. You can't see sod all with all of these deformers on. Right. Unfold, unfold, unfold. And then the last one maybe takes a bit too long, so we need to put that across. Sometimes this goes a bit funky in the screen. If it does that, just rewind to the beginning and start again. There we go. There we go. Just going to move that one away so it doesn't open up so quickly. Now, they're all a little bit long, to be honest. So what you can do is highlight the lot, just grab this bit here, and it'll kind of just move them in. There we go. Cool. Is that actually doing that? Yeah, so that is, yeah, he's doing it. Okay, so that's it unraveling. Now we want it to wrap back up as a box. Now, the way I chose to do this was just to literally set a keyframe just afterwards to change all of the settings of the plane effectors, and then I just moved them back in again, back to the middle. So I'm going to do that here on frame 65. I'm just going to give myself a few more frames here. So let's put in 150 frames, and then move that up. Okay, and then let's see. So we want to get all of them and set keyframes for the parameter and then this the rotations. So these are the two that we're playing with. The reason that says multiple in there is because we've selected all of these and they've all got different values. So we can't change these all in one hit. We do have to change them individually, but we can set the first keyframe in one hit. So bang, bang, and there we go. We've set that keyframe. Now it's going to move forward one frame. And now to basically have them all go back to the state of the box, we're just going to half the number in all of them. So this one is minus 180. Again, though, the top might be a bit different because it might be mischievous. So we set that to 90. Face 4, we set that to 90. Just double check that was that was minus 90 for the top. So that one was positive 90. This one is positive 90. You just control click to set a keyframe. I might have been doing that all this time and I might have forgotten to tell you about that. I really am sorry. Sometimes you just forget things that you just kind of do second nature. So minus 90 on that one, control click to set the keyframe, and face and top minus 90, control click, set the keyframe. Okay. So now, if on say frame 70, we animate all of them going back again. Again, we can just highlight them, and on frame 70, just hit the keyframe button, and that's given them all a keyframe. Then we can move forward to say frame 90 here, and start with the top one. And we can. How can we do this easily? Coordinates. So we can just put, if we go to coordinates, we can just put the y-axis back to 0, and that'll put it on. I'm better off turning the boxes back on so I can see these all. Set that keyframe back to 0 on this one. Set that one back to 0. On 3, it's on the z-axis, so back to 0. 2, it's on the x, so back to 0. And 1, back to 0. Okay, so they're all back there. Now the only one that's not playing ball is the lid, because we knew that. So we're going to make the top one a little bigger. So again, under fall off, we're just going to increase the height a little bit. And there we go. You see how that's just affecting that. So we just make it just so it falls in enough. But obviously we do need to check because we're animating up and down. So if we've done it too much, actually, I'm just going to do that literally to where it needs it to be. There we go. Which is less than it was, so I'm a bit confused by that. So let's have a quick look and just see what that does do. Okay, so it undoes it, and then it does it all back up. Brilliant. It does it all back up pretty quickly, to be fair. If we move this across, we can grab these keyframes. These are all of those ones. Move that to say 100, and then I'm gonna divide these up a bit, stagger them. That's the word I was looking for. So again, face and top, face 1 and top we want last. So face 4, we're going to leave where it is. Face 3, we just grab these two, move them forward a bit, and then we'll grab the next ones, move them forward a bit, something like that, and then these ones, move those forward a bit. Okay, and the top, we'll move that right to the end, and we're going to reduce the time at the top, I think, possibly. Right. There you go. You can see that's folding back up. There we go. So that's working quite nicely. Boom, 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 boom. Choom. So now, if I just go filter, turn off the, where's it gone? Turn off the deformer so we can see what we're doing. Press play. Our box unfolds. It then folds back up again. Brilliant. Okay, so we're up to 45 minutes or so for this. I really didn't want it to be this long, but I suppose this is quite complicated. So the next thing I wanted to do, though, was put a little bit of thickness to these edges, because obviously they're wafer thin. If we render that out, they're flat. So we don't really want it like that. So the way I did that, literally, I just used cloth NURBS. And again, we can put these in, using the Alt key. So if you highlight, do it on I've got to think now. I think it's on the original polygon, so the most in. Basically, make sure it's highlighted. Go to Simulate, Cloth NURBS, hold Alt, and then click the cloth NURBS. There you go, and that puts that on there. So we're going to do that for all of our faces. Simulate Cloth NURBS, face 2. Simulate Cloth NURBS, face 1. Right, now this one we only need to do face 1. This will take the details from that one up there. So we go cloth NURBS, bang, like that, and you can see that's done both of them. Right, now obviously we haven't done anything yet, so we now need to select these cloth NURBS. Great little tip, click this little magnifying glass and you get a bit here. You can actually just type in cloth and it shows you all of your same ones. We could have just collected them, but that's a nice little tip. Here we now have thickness. So if you tap up a few times, you'll see that you get a thickness, but it goes downwards. So you've got to remember that if this box is going together, these will show on the edges. So it's actually more logical to give it sort of negative thickness. So I'm just going to give it sort of -3. One thing I've noticed, I've forgotten to include the bottom in all of this. So I'm just going to minimize all of those, go to the bottom, cloth NURBS, and then -3 for that. There we go. And then as you can see, that's now thick. And the beauty is that it still works. Boom. Right. I will show you the ball. The ball I created in the middle. Again, I'm just using the same technique for the ball. So if I just create a ball, there's just a couple of things that I did to make this work properly. So I shrink the ball down slightly, so because we don't want it bigger than the box. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is give it a rigid body tag, because I want the dynamics to hit. Now obviously that's just falling, so we need to make it so that it stays on our little dude here. So I'm going to select all of these, just right click, simulation, collider body, and then that should, I think, do it. There you go. But obviously what's happening here is it's opening up and throwing the ball out, which we don't want it to do. So at the point where the ball is going to appear, that's when the its tag can come alive, as it were. So just before then, so in this little gap here, if we scroll through, we can see this is the point where the effectors start rolling back in. So I'm going to have it appear at frame 75. So at 74, we go to the dynamics tag and we put dynamic off and set a keyframe. Then we go forward 1 frame to 75 and we set dynamic on and set a keyframe. Okay. Something I am going to do as well is, just because by default the gravity is a little slow, so if you press Control and D, you get up this menu. You can go to Dynamics, and then you can go to Expert. It's well worth putting this up a little bit, so maybe put this steps per frame up to 15. This is how many calculations it makes per frame. Very handy, because if you ever get anything that's intersecting, sort of going through the floor, if you're using lots of balls or something like that, then that's often the cause of it. But under General, you've got here Timescale. Now you've seen me use this to slow down time if you've watched any of my previous tutorials, but in this case we're going to speed it up, so I'm just going to put it up to 130. There we go. It's not really that noticeable, but it just makes a little bit of difference here. Right, brilliant. Okay, so that's working well. I'm also going to give the ball a little bit of a bounce. If we go to the dynamics tag and then under collision, you've got bounce here, so it's set to 50, so I'm just going to put that up to about 70. Boom. Yeah, it's not really making a lot of difference because it's not very high, but I could just maybe raise that a little. I can take it or leave it. Okay, so that's fine. I'm going to make the ball appear in I want it to sort of pop into place. I forgot something as well. This is a little bit disjointed, but a really nice touch. This is one of the reasons why you use Effectors to do this, is that you can use what's called the delay effector. Now these flaps, they're all opening, and they're just kind of opening, stop, stop, stop. You see what I mean? So as it opens, it hits the floor and it just stops. Now that's fine, but it's nicer to have a kind of a little bit of inertia, so it kind of springs into a stop. So we're going to use the delay effector to achieve that. So basically highlight all of your fracture objects, and you're going to want to get your top one as well. So plus that one, and then press Control and click the top one. So we've now got highlighted all of these. Go to MoGraph, Effectors, and then go to Delay. That's now affecting all of those because they were selected. The delay is infinite, that's fine. The bit you do want to change is under Effector, Blend, change that to Spring. Blend kind of does like an easy ease keyframe, so it kind of moves gently into its finish. Spring gives it a kind of little flap, so I'm just going to put that down to about 30. Sorry, I've got hiccups now. And now watch the difference. None. Do you see that? That was embarrassing. Okay, so when it does this to me, I just change it while it's playing, and it fixes that. Don't ask me why, but there you go. It's now moving properly, and it's twanging, which is cool. Boing, 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 boing. This is the whole reason why we're using effectors. Cool. Okay, so this is that bit. So I'm just going to put the delay effector down there because this is part of the bottom system. Okay, our sphere. We want that to be affected by effectors as well. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either put it into a fracture object, or you can use a cloner. Now normally you'd only use a cloner if you wanted to create several. I held Alt and I selected cloner, and that automatically put the sphere into the cloner for me. And in this case, I'm just going to do that, and I'm just going to set the count down to 1. So it's the same thing as using a fracture object or a cloner or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So that's that. So that can now be affected by effectors, and I'm going to use the plane effector again because it's really useful. Again, you see it's been affected by the default, which is up 100 centimeters. We're going to switch that off, and we're going to use scale. So tick scale and set uniform scale, because we only want to choose. If you use these, you can sort of scale, you know, the individual axes. Oops, I pressed Control X, not Control Z. So do uniform, and it just does 1. There we go. See, we can make it bigger and smaller. So we're going to start off with -1. That will make it so small, it's no longer visible. You see? So, okay. Nothing's happening. Brilliant. So what we need to do is move the effector away at the right time. So I'm going to say, if you remember, we set our dynamics to turn on at 75, so at 73 I'm going to set a keyframe for our effector, which we need to change, remember, because it's set to infinite as default. We need to change that to box. I'm going to turn on deformer so we can see. Now obviously this is getting messy, so we're just going to press these tick boxes and turn off those ones for the minute. This is our sphere one. So again, we're going to set the keyframe, go forward some frames, I don't know, 177, and just move that up. Set a keyframe, and there you go. You can see that that kind of works. Because we're using it in conjunction with dynamics, it does get a little bit funky, but just rewind and start again. And there you go. You can see that's now. Now it does seem a little bit fast. It doesn't appear to actually be. Yeah, something's not quite right there. So I'm going to make the box a little bit bigger. 200, 200, 200. That's really interesting. Just rewind this and do this again. Okay, this is misbehaving now. Oh, this is a good one, this one, isn't it? Everything's going wrong again. Sure, this happened in my last one. Right, okay. Plane effector, scale, yes. Why are you not appearing? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take that dynamics tag off for the minute. And just find out what's going on here. So our plane effector is working fine if we do it manually. I think it's just not, that's why, yep. Right, okay, so the sphere isn't sitting dead on the 0, but our effector is on its first keyframe. So let's call this sphere grower. and we want to find the sphere grower, so that's these ones here. So that's the first keyframe for the sphere grower. So we want to move that up a bit, set the keyframe, and then go to the other one, and we need to move that up a lot more. There we go. Set a keyframe. Okay, so you can see now that that's growing, although it's moving pretty instantly. You can do this either using the controls in here, strength. We don't really want that. No, that's not really what we want. We just want it to move up slower, basically. There we go. Right, cool. Okay, so that's disappearing. So we can maybe move that back a little. There we go. That's what we were after. So now we'll put the rigid body tag back on. We're going to have to set the keyframe again, unfortunately. Rigid body. We go to, what was it, 74. Dynamics. Turn dynamic off. Set a frick keyframe. Control. Click. And on. Control click. Alright, let's try that out. Boom. There we go. Right, so we've got our ball appearing. Now if we turn on all the other ones, we'll see how this is all looking. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. We got there in the end. Super. Right. So this is now up to 56 minutes. You might as well stay the rest of the night. I'm only joking. Let's get this done. The next thing I'm going to do is just the ribbon. This isn't very difficult, but there's a couple of like nice little tips that I wanted to give you in this bit. So again, we're going to turn off all this this nuff. Turn that. There we go. Right, again, because we haven't moved this is going to be our savior, and because we've used even numbers, again, this is going to be our savior. So we're going to create a rectangular spline, or a spleen, as I like to call it. Now, as you can see, the size is a little bigger than the box, which is fine, but we're just going to change that to 202, 202. So now this really is fractionally bigger than the box. And there's a couple of points I want to point out here. I'm going to go customization and then layouts and then back to standard. So we've got a slightly bigger screen to work with, and we can use these modes. So from the front, you can see this. Basically, our spline is going around our box. Now, what we want to do is use this as a guide for our ribbon to go round. And if I make this spline editable, you'll see that there doesn't seem to really be much in the way, much difference yet. But if we select the point mode, you'll now see your spline. Now, just to explain a little bit what's going on here, basically the white is the start of the spline, and the darker it gets is the end. So it's very handy to remember this. And if you ever want to try and remember it, just think of light. As light travels further and further, it gets darker. I don't know, but that might not even make sense. Find your own thing. I don't know, whatever. Eat a hamburger every Tuesday, and then that way you'll remember which way around it goes. Who eats hamburgers? Everyone gets cheeseburgers, surely. Right, sorry, I'm getting distracted again. And this is going on far too long. Right. Rectangle. We've made our rectangle, but this is the start point. So basically, we're going to put this into a what's called a sweep NURBS. So the sweep NURBS is here, and that takes two splines to create a kind of like a tube or whatever, So hold Alt and select that, and that puts that in for us. We just need to create another rectangle really quickly. And we'll place that in the sweep NURBS as well, above our first rectangle. Now, by default, because that's massive, that's created a strange box. So if we just reduce the size, you can see, so that's going to be our ribbon thickness. But obviously that width is massive, so we want to bring that right back in. So probably something like 30. There you go. See, so we've now made our ribbon that goes around the box. The reason why I pointed out that stuff earlier is because with the sweep NURBS, you can animate the growth. You see, so if you can see that, let me just move this. If we animate this, if we put a keyframe and animate that, we can animate the ribbon going around the box. But we don't want it to start from up there. That's not really much use. So we're going to change the starting point. Now, if we go back to point mode and select our rectangle, to change the starting point, you literally just right-click and do set first point. It's there. you select it and then you do set first point. That's the one. Okay, so now we've made this one down here our first, so it goes white, 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 blue, 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 blue. Okay, so it's now going around that way. We don't really want it to come from the edge, we want it to come from the middle. Now, just to give you a little bit of information about splines or spleens, there's a tab over here called Structure, and this basically gives you an Excel spreadsheet style thing of what your spleen is, because essentially a spline or spleen is, I should stop calling them spleens, it's not the correct term. Essentially what it is, it's just points with an, it's just points in space with an expression joining them together, essentially, something like that anyway. So what we're going to do is create one that's right here on the bottom. And the reason I brought this up is just because this makes this a lot easier to see. Now, the first thing, we're going to make sure we're in points mode. We've got the live selection tool. We don't want the live selection tool. You use the move tool to do stuff with splines, and this is really odd. I'm not quite sure why this is, but there you select the move tool, or you can press E on the keyboard, and basically if you press Control, you can create a point. See, like that. And now because we've got it all grouped in, because we've got it as a complete spline, it'll just make that point and automatically close it. But what we're going to want to do is actually create one just down here. Alright, so that's the one we've just created. You can see it there. Now it said that I got it spot on 0. Now it might have snapped it for me, but I'm going to just double click that and press enter just to confirm that that point is definitely dead on 0. So that's fine. And I'm going to do the same up the top here, but I'm just going to come over a little bit, see, because now you can see that's that one there. It's 0.6, so it's 6 over that way. So I'll just change that to a 0, and that'll put that back. Okay, and the first spline is always 0.0 on this list. So now obviously we don't actually want that to be our first spline, so we'll select this one, set first point. There we go. So now it's going up and around there. The next thing we need to do is go back to Objects, select the spline, and turn off Close Spline. Okay, so that's now closed it. So if you can see here, there's nothing there. Here's a really handy tip. With the Move tool selected, if you want to continue this spline on, if you just create, go to spline and create something, it won't work. It'll just always make a new one. But if you want to continue, just press Control and click, and you can continue that spline on, but it will always go from the end. So that's really handy. But what we're going to do is actually get rid of these other two. So we're going to press and hold, select the rectangular selection, just grab those two and just press delete. And as you can see now, we've just got a spline going across there. So it was all that just for that, essentially, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it because it's useful. The next thing is to put that into a symmetry object. So symmetry, hold Alt, bang, and there you go. If we go back to the main view, you'll see that we've got our wrapping going all the way around, and again, if we look at the end growth, see, we can just up like that. Okay, finally just make a copy of that. It's the easiest and quickest way to do it. Make a copy and just rotate it 90 degrees. Remember, holding Shift does the incremental. And then basically, if we go back to customization, layouts, animation, at this point here, after it's put itself back together, we'll maybe start there, 116. We'll set a keyframe for our 2 sweep knobs. So select the 2 sweep knobs and set the end growth down to 0 and set a keyframe. And then just go forward, maybe 125, and set the keyframe to 100. Okay, and let's just have a look, see how that's going. Boom, 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 boom. Pops in, and it closes up, and it wraps it. Brilliant. Right, okay, so we are officially on over an hour now. I'm just going to stretch that out because that was a bit too fast. And I've got one last little bit that I want to do, so I'm going to just leave it in here. This can just be a long one. Okay, so in this last little section, I'm going to have the little bows appear at the top. Again, I did it in the same kind of way. Let me just get rid of that magnifying glass. So let's go back to standard mode. Create a circle. Press T to get the scale tool and reduce the size down and just bring that up so that we can see what we're doing. T and just put it down a little bit more, highlight the circle, and you can do ellipse mode and just squish that in just a little bit, something like that. And again, we're going to use the sweep NURBS, so hold Alt, put that into a sweep NURBS. I'm going to use the same rectangle that we used for our ribbon earlier, so I'm just going to grab that rectangle, make a copy straight into the sweep NURBS, and you can see that that's done. That's done us proud. There's a lot of geometry there, so we will fix that a bit, but we're just going to make that a bit shorter, so maybe 10, and a bit thinner, so 1. Now all that geometry, because we're so far away, doesn't matter. If you're close up it does, but because there's going to be quite a lot of these, it's going to get a little bit messy. So basically, under the circle, put the angle of the immediate points up, and then that'll just take some of that geometry out. It kind of does show, but you've got to compromise and find somewhere in the middle. Okay, so we've done that. We're going to place that into a cloner. Hold Alt, and there you go. That's in there now. We're going to do a radial cloner this time. So go to Mode, Radial. There we go. I'm going to press R. I'm going to rotate the whole cloner and put it that way. And then I'm going to pull those in a bit and up the count, something like that. Okay. Render instances, and it will go a little bit quicker. Transform. This will move the clones inside, so we're just going to put them up kind of a bit like that, and maybe twist them. Yeah, give them a little twist. Cool. Okay, so we're going to use a random effector as well. So on the cloner we go MoGraph Effector Random, and that's going to send them all everywhere because by default it's got under parameter position selected with 50 in each. So we'll turn that one off, turn on the rotation, and just put a couple of % in each one, just so that they don't sit perfectly neatly. Okay. Finally, we're going to put that cloner into another cloner. So put that cloner into another cloner like so. So we've got a cloner in a cloner. Because we've changed the angle, it doesn't go up this time, it goes over to the side. So we need to go into the cloner, go to Object, and set the Y to 0. And we're going to want to move the Z up a bit, but not too much, probably about 8. Yep. Put a few instances of that in, and then the last effector we're going to use on here, or is it the last? I don't know. But we're going to use a step. That's the one. Okay, so at the moment that's stepping outwards, so things are getting bigger the further up it goes. So I'm going to change that. So we've got the step selector, then down here under transform we can go -1, and you can see that that's kind of starting to do what we want it to do. The only thing I want is just a bit more rotation in it. So again, with that cloner selected, we go Effector Random, and we turn off the position, and we just make them rotate a bit. And I think we want to also just tweak that one a little bit, maybe something like that. There we go. Right, and that's made our kind of bow thing that's going to go on the top. So we can shrink the whole thing down, grab that cloner, press T, just shrink the whole thing down, put that there, just bung that on the top. There we go. And the way I made those appear, again, there's a couple of things you can do here. One is you can animate the sweep NURBS so that they kind of draw themselves out like that. That looks quite funky. Another is you can use the plane effector. So if we go to the make sure the bottom one's selected, effector, plane effector. Wow, position back to normal. We're going to do scale again, set the fall off to box. We need to be able to see this, so display, filter, deformer. Obviously we've got the loads going on, so I'm just going to switch those off for the minute. Okay, and that's the one we're playing with, so we need to position the plane effector over our little bow. And we're going to go parameter, scale, uniform scale. That's me clicking the middle mouse button. Go -1. And that's them gone. And at frame, say about there, we're going to set a keyframe for the effector. Make sure you're in object modeling mode. There we go. Set a keyframe for the plane effector, and go forward a few frames, and just there we go. We'll move that up like so. Set a keyframe. There we go. And again, that delay that we used earlier, we can use this on these. So go to our cloners, go to Effectors, and we can actually just drag the delay into there. For that cloner, we can drag the delay into there. For these, we can drag the delay. No, we can't, because we haven't done those with fractures, so no, there's no reason for delay on those anyway. And our ball, actually we could put the delay on the ball, and that should make it kind of spring when it appears. Right, so now that we've done all of that, we'll switch all of those back on, and let's have a look. There we go. Wow, let's just turn these off and we can see this properly. Deformer. Okay. Now, obviously, you're going to want to spend a bit of time doing all all of your settings and everything. Now, that's quite cool. The way the ball is flying out. This is something I found. If you are trying to recreate this exactly, and you find that your ball keeps flying out of the box, what I did was I put in a proxy object just to stop that from happening. I know I can't believe this is still going on. This is really quick final thing. Okay, so create a cube, and then just hit T and make it ever so slightly bigger. And then just make the cube a bit taller, like so. Give it a collider body tag, and make sure you go to collision and then set it to static mesh, and then just basically switch it off there and call it proxy. Put it out of the way, and then basically that ball can't pass it, so your ball won't fly out of your box. See, so it definitely stays in there. So that's your final tip. Okay, there you go. That was a long one. That's my longest one ever. Really sorry, but hopefully it's useful to you. The Effector stuff is really, really good. It's really powerful if you get the hang of it and get past all its little quirks. And literally, that's just scratching the surface of what this stuff can do. But that's going to be for another tutorial. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to check out the site, ratemyfuneral.com. There's all sorts of bits and pieces on there. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Do I have to switch this off?